Hello, Zoe here, and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm doing something that I did last year, and I'm making a sequel of it, because it did well and it was really fun to make. So I'm doing another Thankscringing video, which is basically where I make self-insert OCs into basically universes that I really like. So, without further ado, let's get right into this. I love Sonic despite knowing not really anything about it, and I kind of have had like the weirdest journey of I think I possibly could have trying to interact with Sonic content. So this journey starts when I'm a child and I was watching a friend play a Sonic video game. I don't remember which game it was, but I do know that Tails was in it, Shadow was in it, and obviously Sonic was in it. And I don't really remember my age. I was probably like 4 though, because I know it was before I wound up moving to Washington. And the biggest thing that I remember from learning about the game at that period in time was Tails wasn't a girl, and I was disappointed. But don't worry, I still love him. Sonic disappeared from my life for many years, except for when I occasionally came across art and was like, that's some good art. I do like the art style. Then came a life-changing event that really kickstarted my interest into Sonic content somehow. That would be Karina from Drawfee's Sonic Butthole Saga. So, I saw the first upload, and I didn't expect there would be more. It was Karina saying, I'm gonna turn whatever random shape you give me into Sonic, and it turned out to be Sonic with his whole butthole exposed. It was really funny. Guess I'll put a link to like a supercut of all of the episodes of the saga, but you know, it was kind of a series. After that, there was another period of nothingness until I decided to watch the Sonic movies. You know, the ones that like almost wound up with this Sonic design, but thankfully the internet was very upset by it, and they ultimately changed it to the better version, objectively. And personally, I think that this is the only reason why I can gaslight myself into believing that this isn't the worst timeline. Anyways, I wound up buying some Sonic shirts. Two of them were the Onsta's Sonic IBS shirts. They were for a birthday gift for a friend because I thought he would find them funny, and one of them is Sonic, who goes fast because he has IBS, and Shadow, who loves someone with IBS. They're very funny shirts. And then the next one that I got is actually probably one of my favorite shirts, just in general. The art on it was by Aquibani, and it's a Shadow t-shirt with him wearing a dress. And I have convinced my friend, his girlfriend, to go see Sonic Shadow 3, the third Sonic movie that has Shadow in it, while we are all wearing these shirts. So, you know, that is truly a life blessing. It's gonna be a moment in history. And fairly recently, I have played my first Sonic game. Not just like watching a friend play a little bit of it when I was a child, but me actually sitting down and playing it, and that was on my trip in September 2024 to New York, so only a few months ago. And also, I've been enjoying the Sonic X Shadow Generations after work, just, you know, play a little bit when I'm off work to have some fun. And it does have my Edgelord Shadow in it, and I'm loving it so far. At this point, this is where my first Sonic self-insert comes in. I didn't really know much about the lore of Sonic, so I just made a character kind of sliding to a stop after going fast, because I thought the pose was cool, and I was trying to do some stuff with foreshortening. I think it turned out pretty cool from what you're seeing of the original drawing process. And I did base her off of a Scottish Fold, which is a breed of cat with folded ears, as opposed to the pointy one. And that's mainly because a friend said if I was an animal, I would specifically be that kind of cat. I've also had a friend say that I would be like a wolf or snake, but I ultimately went with Scottish Fold because it's a little more specific. Also, I like cats. also, there's quite a few of Sonic characters that I could use as reference, and that just makes my life easier. And then I got this email from my landlords saying that I had a package. And it turned out it was the first volume of the Sonic IDW collection. Like, I had ordered this a few weeks ago, and it arrived, in quotes, a few weeks ago, and they sent me a code to the, like, security lockboxes, and then also sent me a message saying it was delivered at my door, and it wasn't at my door, and it wasn't in the security boxes, and it wasn't at the lobby of my apartments. So I just kind of assumed someone stole it, and was like, oh, well, that's disappointing. But no, it magically appeared. And then after reading it, actually, I decided to make some changes to my own Sonic OC, and I added a couple of Wisps and Wispins. So yeah, it was based kind of off of Whisper, and I basically just took her Wispin and made a similar version of that for my character, but most of it is blocked by the body. So I have two Wisps. The first one is Loki as the fire one because he is warm and cuddly, and then we also have Thor as the lightning gun because Thor is the god of thunder, so thunder, lightning, Thor has to be lightning. Basically, the lightning gun, or basically when the lightning wisp goes into the gun thing, it is a lightning gun. When the fire wisp goes in, it's like a fire glaive, so ranged and melee, which I thought was pretty cool. So really the most that I can say about this character, my own OC, is that her name is Ranger because she runs around fighting robots from Dr. Eggman that he's kind of left lying about, that seems, at the start of the Sonic IDW collection. And it also, that name seems to fit in mostly with what the naming schemes seem to be for the Sonic comics, except for Amy, who's Amy, and everyone else is like just a word. Whatever. So yeah, basically she runs around fighting Dr. Eggman's robots, or whatever other dangers will appear. Anyways, speaking of robots, we have our next drawing to get into. Wow, am I the queen of transitions right there. So if you have been around on this channel for a while, and I've mentioned robots and OCs, you probably know where this is going, but if you don't, we're making Murder Drones OCs because those funny little robots live in my head rent-free. Unfortunately, I couldn't decide whether I wanted to be a disassembly drone or a worker drone that possesses the absolute solver. So I decided that really there's only one solution of this problem. I'm gonna do both. We will have a worker drone that is Zoe, just using my name instead of coming up with one, and disassembly drone, which is serial and we'll have a disassembly drone whose name is serial designation Z, or Z. This series itself is very short. It's like 8 20-minute Why can I not talk? I suddenly have lost my ability to talk. It's 8 20-ish minutes episodes, so it's not a long series, and there's not really a lot of like expanded lore for me to work with like how there is in the next one, and what's there is just really spoilery for the series, so I'm gonna try and avoid talking about that sorts of stuff because it's spoilers. And because of that, I'm not entirely sure what they would be doing aside from the moments where they can be around the main cast, because it probably wouldn't matter that there's more characters there and have magically disappeared when there are character moments that in that show that require the characters to only be those individuals there. You know, other nonsense like that. I mean, I could do a ship for those reasons. Like, ship Zoe and serial designation Z together. Oh god, that's self-cessed right there, isn't it? What? I have to say that. I hate that I said that. Well, it's happened before in plenty of anime fandoms, the self-cessed ship, and you know what? It's cringe, so we're gonna go with it, because it is Thankscringing, and cringe is the theme. I promise, I'm not secretly Narcissus. I made... Oh god, I made a self-cessed ship with myself for a thing. Ignoring that, we're moving on, and we're going with it. Like I said, because it's cringe. Something that I really wanted to talk about during this was, like, what exactly is the absolute solver and how it kind of works, because I've read some things about other people theorizing some stuff, and then I was like, I can't really talk about this without talking about Uzi, Doll, Jay, the other murder drones, Sin, and then that just gets into way too much spoilers, and I was like, I can't enter in my 2 cents in on whether the absolute solver is its own consciousness, or if it's just a power that can be used to do things and stuff. And that kind of upsets me. I'm trying to avoid spoilers because I think that it's a really good series, and I would encourage other people to watch it if they have like a couple hours of their life that they need to kill. It is a horror comedy, so, you know, there is some horror stuff. Be warned, I guess. Anyways, we'll be able to dig more into lore stuff with this next OC, and that segment will be a bit longer than this one because I can actually yap about the things I want to yap about without spoiling plot stuff. So yeah, on to the next one. So, I'm doing He Who Fights with Monsters again. I basically was dissatisfied with the last time that I did this because it is my favorite book series and I've listened to it like 4 times and it's like 11 books that are like 20 hours long each. And it's a lot, and with my last one I just gave essences and I didn't really have a good idea of their powers, so, you know, we're doing it again. We're doing it again. Anyways, for the Outworlder powers, I'm just going to be assuming that they are the same as Jason Asano's, the protagonist, at least how they are in the first book. Essentially, that would mean like a loot power, like a quest system power, inventory power, astral affinity, and some other stuff. Ultimately, it's basically an interface. So I also have changed the essence combinations that I had from the last one that I did. And I feel like that I'm acting in similar manners to how a character was at the end of book 11, who was constantly changing what essence combination they wanted, or how in the middle books when Jason was picking out some essence combinations for people, how they were basically debating it for a very long time. But the one that I have settled on, and hopefully next year we'll still be satisfied with, are the Void, Dimension, and Technology essences to make the Cyberspace Confluence essence. I was kind of wanting to have the idea of a technology-based power sets and that sort of stuff, and Cyberspace essence I don't think is a canon essence, but who cares? I can make things up in my cringe OC video, so that's what I did. And speaking of all of these essences, I actually came up with a list of all 20 powers, and for which essences they came from, and what awakening stones that were used. So, you know, I'm gonna look at my Word document here, and just kind of try and give some quick summaries. So, from the Void Essence, we have a Void Beast, which is a familiar summons, whose name is Postolovox and goes by Pasta for short. Basically, a Void Beast. What I decided in this is the beast that you will be seeing in this image, and it can mimic and shapeshift like into other creatures and kind of mimic their abilities, as well as having its own little void space thing flare. Now we have the next one from our Void Essence still is Weapons of the Void, which was from the Awakening Stone of the Hand. Basically, it would allow me to conjure, or allow this OC to conjure space weapons, like space, melee, and ranged weapons. We have the Consuming Void, Awakening Stone of Inevitability, which is an execute spell. Basically, it's meant to close out a fight, and it does a lot of damage at once. We have a Black Hole from Awakening Stone of Gravity, which basically creates a point of a black hole, not the actual power of a black hole, but a hole that is black that sucks things towards it, basically as a way of controlling enemies in a battlefield. Then we have the Cold Void from the Awakening Stone of the Frost, which is an attack that does an affliction damage. Like, basically, it's like a cold burn effect that will go away after a while, and can be applied to any attack. That. Now we got the Dimension Essence. We have Blink, which is a teleporting power. We have Winged Poncho, which is the poncho there, which is a flight power. We have Phase Shift from the Awakening Stone of Dimension, which basically allows the OC to kind of phase out a little bit of reality to kind of let attacks pass through them. We have Dimensional Adjustment from the Awakening Stone of Wrath, which is the Aura power, which will basically change Disruptive Force, Resonating Force, and Transcendent damage from allies and enemies. Shift Toxin from Awakening Stone of Recovery, which is a spell that can drain toxins from a target creature, essentially, excluding yourself. The Technology Essence has the Mechanical Eyes, which are basically a perception power. We have Robotic Arms from Awakening Stone of the Hand, allows me to summon robotic arms, which you are seeing in the image. We have Magitech Adept, which came from the Awakening Stone of Craft. It is crafting ability, which allows me to make magical weapons and other magical things easier. Chain Lightning, that's pretty self-explanatory. Reconstruction, Awakening Stone of Defiance. It is a spell that applies to the self, which boosts the recovery stat, which will make things recover quicker. Now we have the Cyberspace Essence. We have Hack, which is basically an attack that will stun constructs or elementals and eventually people. Nanoswarm, another familiar whose name is Glitch and can take the shape of tools, vehicles, drones, and armor depending on the rank of the vessel. We have Firewall from the Awakening Stones of Shields, which is basically a shield and can be used to create digital firewalls in digital spaces. Virus, which is a special attack, and an Affliction, which is a virus that affects constructs and elementals, and eventually people. And then we have Overclock from the Awakening Stone of Persistence, which is a movement ability, basically. Tried to get through that quick, and I realized I wasn't saying all of the stones and whatnot, but whatever. That's kind of the list of powers and what they quickly do. I do also have in this document of how they change based off of rank and that sorts of stuff for balancing, but, you know, that's just me, and I'm not gonna sit here for a couple hours reading all of it. So, as for kind of the story of this, a younger version of me, I would assume like 16, is the one that gets caught in the same magical accident that Jason did and was summoned to the area of Greenstone in the Delta region, you know, by that same magical accident that Jason was in, and basically would follow the quest system and wound up gaining essences, and eventually stumbled into a team of Gellers, and they were in a bad spot, and basically wound up saving them by basically a miracle, because Gellers are the best that there is, and I would not be. And is wound up trained by the Gellers in Greenstone. Eventually, I would probably come across the potion of gender change, which leads to a very interesting question of what would I name myself, which I don't know, because this would have been like, I don't know, 8 years before I settled on the name Zoe. So who knows what younger me would come up with for a name if I had an instant transition potion. And then eventually gets adopted into the Geller family. Basically, throughout the first 3 books of the series, this version of myself would be discovering themselves and how to be an adventurer and that sorts of things. She would eventually join up with Jason's team during the events of books 4 through 6. I won't really spoil the events too much, and also doing some other personal stuff during that time. Again, I won't get into too much spoiler details. And then through books 7 through 11, she would eventually lead her own team along with the events through those books. The picture that I'm currently working on is during the second Battle of Masabak. Basically, the city was overrun by an undead army, and the self-insert character has her familiars around her. Glitch is the Thrones and Armor, and Pasta is the Void Beast at the back, and there are some zombies of various sizes in the background of the city. So yeah, that's it for this one. I didn't actually think of a name for myself. Who knows what younger me would have done? Maybe I would have done something that was like super chuny. Or like, you know, naming myself after an anime character. Who knows? I guess we'll never know. And we're gonna be moving on. And by moving on, I do mean that is all of the time that I have for this video. So, I wish you all a very happy Thankscringing if you celebrate. I don't know. It takes place around the time of American Thanksgiving, and I don't know if anybody else does this. Anyways, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more of this, go ahead and subscribe. See you in the next video I make. Bye!